If you are new to tuning, watch this video with your parents. Tuning takes practice, so don't worry if you need to watch this video several times. And make sure to watch the video all the way to the end before you start tuning your instrument. Instruments need to be tuned every day. If you are careful with your instrument, you may only need to make small adjustments. But if your instrument is new to you, there's what's called a breaking in period, where you may have to tune your instrument a lot for several days, sometimes a week or 2 weeks, until your instrument settles. And then you'll only have to make small adjustments if you're careful with your instrument. These are the fine tuners. These are what you use for everyday tuning. Your instrument probably has 4 of them, while mine only has 1. They make small or fine adjustments. These are the pegs. These make large adjustments. Make sure, if you've never tuned before, let your parents use the pegs if you need to. Why would you need to use the pegs? Well, maybe your fine tuners have been adjusted so far that you can't move them any further. So you will need to loosen the fine tuners and then make the adjustment with the pegs. Another reason you may have to use your pegs, or maybe your instrument's so far out of tune that your strings are really wobbly and loose, and you would have to make the adjustment with the pegs to get the pitch close. When tuning with the fine tuners, remember, lefty-loosey, righty-tighty. Right, tight will make the pitch go higher. Left, loose will make the pitch go lower. When tuning with the pegs, you usually want to hold the instrument so that the strings are facing you. If you turn the peg towards you, it will loosen the string and make the pitch go lower. If you tune the peg away from you, it will make the pitch go higher and tighten the string. Now remember, when you use the pegs, a little goes a long way. Think about adjusting them in millimeters. Most of our pegs are called friction pegs. That means the only thing that's holding them in place is the friction between the peg and the instrument. So when you turn them, you also have to push in to make sure that the peg sticks. So I usually have one hand on the body of the instrument and the other hand on the peg. I will play the pitch so I can hear how much I'm adjusting. And as I'm moving the peg, I'm also pushing in. So I'm creating equal pressure of this hand pushing towards my other hand as this hand pushes towards this hand to create that friction. It doesn't take a lot of pressure, but it takes enough to make sure that that peg sticks. The bass doesn't have fine tuners on the tailpiece like the violin, viola, and cello. They have fine tuners up where the pegs should be. So these usually are called gears or machine heads. They work the same way. If the instrument is facing you with the strings, it is still lefty-loosey, righty-tighty. However, it is backwards if this instrument is facing away from you. So sometimes that can be tricky because eventually you are going to be tuning it with the instrument facing away. But by the time you do that, you'll probably have a pretty good grip on tuning your instrument. There are several free tuners on the App Store. You just have to search for Violin Tuner. And it doesn't matter if you're trying to find a viola tuner or a cello tuner, they're all the same. So we're going to start with this one, and this is what it looks like in the App Store. So let me open it up, and here's what it actually looks like. So we do have a button that if we push this button, it will actually play the pitch. And eventually you will be matching pitches, but when we first learn to tune, we're going to use the tuning fork, which listens to you and tells you what pitch you're playing. So you'll notice it's going to start moving around when I talk because our voices have pitch. A couple things you want to look for. First of all, this number 440. Okay, that's our calibration pitch that we tune to in America. So you always want to make sure it says 440. And if it doesn't, that's what these plus minus signs are for. So you can change the calibration, but we want to tune to 440. The next thing you'll notice is that it tells you what pitch it's hearing. So you want to make sure that you're tuning to your string. So if you're tuning to your A string, make sure it says A, not A sharp or A flat, but just plain old A. Then we have some lights and a needle, and the lights and the needle are doing the same thing. You want the needle to be on 0 and the green light to be on. That means your string's in tune. If the needle or the light on the left is on, your instrument is too low, it's flat, so you're going to have to turn the pitch up, which is righty-tighty. If the needle is too far on the right, or this light is on, the pitch is too high, you're going to have to turn it down, or lefty-loosey. So let's see what it sounds like when I play an instrument along with it. So here's a viola, and let's see what happens when I pluck my A string. So it's telling me that it's hearing an A, which is great because that's what I want to be playing. And now it's showing me that the needle is slightly to the left, so I'm a little low. So I want to turn my fine tuner righty-tighty just a little bit. And now I'm a little high, so I need to go the other way and turn it down a little bit. And now the needle's on 0, so I know I'm in tune. There are also some physical tuners that you can buy that we call clip-on tuners. Here are a couple examples that I have. So they have a little clip that you can adjust them and set them on your instrument. Now, these are really cool because they sense the vibration of the pitch that you're playing, not the sound that you're making. So if you're in a noisy environment, it won't affect your tuning. And they work in the same way. They'll have lights and needles that will show you whether you're too low or you're too high. But these don't read sound, they read the vibration of the sound to tune. On the violin, the strings are E, A, D, and G. You can follow the strings up to the peg box to see which string belongs with which peg. The outside strings are going to be your lower pegs. The middle two strings are going to be your higher pegs. And the lower sounding strings are going to be on this side of the instrument, and the higher sounding strings are going to be on this side of the instrument. So let's tune our violin. So I'm going to set the instrument on my knee with the strings facing myself. And I'm going to start with my A string. So that is the second string. And I'm going to make sure I know which fine tuner it's connected to. So if you look at the needle on the tuner, it's way over here to the left. So that's telling me my string is too low, it's flat. So I'm going to have to turn it up. So I'm going to do that by tuning the fine tuner righty-tighty. And there we go, right on the 0. So now I'm going to go to the next string, which is the D string, and I'm going to follow it down so I know which tuner to turn. Wow, notice it doesn't even say I'm playing a D, it says I'm playing a C sharp. Let's look at that again. So that's why it's important to look at what pitch it's actually playing. So C sharp is lower than a D. So I'm going to have to turn the string up to at least it starts reading a D. So again, I'm going to find the correct fine tuner and I'm going to go righty-tighty to turn it up. Good, so now it's reading a D, so I know I'm close to the correct pitch. Now I have to look at the needle. So I'm still a little flat, so I still need to go righty-tighty. we go. Now I have a D. So let's move to my lowest string, my G string. That's really flat, so I'm going to have to righty-tighty turn that up. And now my G is in tune. Now I'm going to go over to my E string at the very end, and I'm going to tune my E string. And that is flat as well, so I'm going to have to go righty-tighty to turn that up. And now my violin's in tune and ready to play.